Like, like, can you hear me? Hello. Miss Shruti, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Please tell me.
So once you introduce, like say example, you're introducing me.
Yeah.
Should I just say hi, hello, and that's it? And my name is so and so. That's it.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to yet another session of the Times of India's Mission Admission webinar series. We are back this time with a very pertinent topic, extremely relevant in the times that we live in. The whole concept of exams and the stress it induces. We are here with a panel of eminent speakers, counselors, and academicians who will guide the students and the parents on how to navigate these tough times. The March is here, almost here rather, savage and serene. Students are neck deep in exams, pressurized, anxious, and stressed. Around 7 lakh students will take the second PU exam starting on March 1st, and another 9 lakh the SSLC exam scheduled for March 25th. So in this session, we hope to give you some insights on how to beat exam stress. This session is supported by Dayanand Sagar University, CMI University, and the Jain Residential International School. Before I introduce our eminent speakers for the day, I have with me Mr. Russell Fernandez. He's a Vice President, Karnataka Head of BCCL, with 25 years of experience in media across print and digital. I would invite Mr. Russell to set the ball rolling. Over to you, Mr. Russell.
Very good morning to all of you present here. And thank you, Shruti, for that flattering introduction. A warm welcome and a big thank you to each of our distinguished guests who are attending this webinar. Thank you, Dr. Amit Bhatt, Vice Chancellor, Dayanand Sagar University, Dr. Ali Khwaja, Chairman, Banjara Academy, Dr. Kakoli Das, CMS University, and Mrs. Deanna Fugle from Jain Residential International School. Thank you for being part of this webinar. Well, our distinguished guests and panel are experts in their own field and will help with various aspects of stress. I would like to let you know a few key thoughts from a point of view of being a student for the large part of my life and also being a working professional from a young age until now. Stress is life, and to some extent, life is stress. So stress is an inevitable aspect of life of every human being and pretty much for every living thing. It is up to us to understand that it is also a function of not only being alive, because if you're alive, you'll have stress, but also a function of being intelligent, aware of repercussions of doing things appropriately, not doing things appropriately, and therefore, facing consequences for that. If one is careless, for example, of crossing a busy road, and the chances of meeting an accident are very high, but one is a bit tensed and focused on the task at hand, one can cross that road safely. So the same thing with stress. You can make stress work to your advantage, to study better, to study hard, to excel in life. Also, one important thing of stress is we all must know that it is especially high levels of stress is something that is built by us, by our own minds, by our own thoughts. my own expectations, my own anxieties, and not necessarily because of the external environment or the exam itself or events themselves or people. The same applies to exams, to tests, to presentations one has to make. So long as that stress is good enough for us to excel, it's great for us to absorb stress and then do something with stress. But if one crumbles under stress, then that turns out to be counterproductive. Each of you are preparing for your academic and competitive exams, and this is a great opportunity. Through that preparation, through answering your exams, you are actually dealing with stress. So therefore it is an opportunity for life skill over time to seek how to become each day to handle stress, each week to handle stress, each year and month to handle stress. Handling stress is a life skill and a skill that each of us needs to do, not only during exams but throughout our lives. I wish each of you the very best for your exams and congratulate you for having the sensibility to attend this knowledge session on stress management that will be imparted today, which will help you in your exams and in your life. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Russell. That made a lot of sense. Truly, stress is inevitable and it's all about how we deal with it. So joining us today, let me just introduce all the panelists. I'll start with Dr. Amit Bhatt. He is currently the Vice Chancellor of the Deanna University. He got his BE from University of Baroda, MS from Duke University, and PhD from NC State University, and has more than 30 years of experience in academia and industry put together. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Bhatt. Also joining us today is Dr. Ali Khwaja, an engineering graduate from IIT Bombay with a PhD in behavioral sciences. He is the founder chairman of Bajara Academy and leads a large team of counselors who meet a large number of students on a day-to-day basis. Welcome, sir. Next, we have Dr. Kakoli Das, an accomplished psychologist. She is currently the assistant professor in Department of Psychology, School of Liberal Studies, CMI University. She's completed her bachelor's degree in psychology in 2013 and went on to pursue her master's in clinical psychology from Sikkim Central University. Completed her PhD in psychology from the same institute in 2022. Pleasure to have you, Dr. Das, with us. Also with us is Mrs. Deanna Fugle, a licensed counselor with over 15 years of experience in the field of counseling. Currently the school counselor with Jain University. Deanna also runs an online consultation called Cure via Conversation. Would look forward to have a detailed conversation with you today. And to the audience, in case you have any queries to any of our speakers, you can comment in the FB comment section, the chat box. We'll take it up once I am done with my set of questions. I think we can start off with the discussion. In sync with the topic, why do exams cause so much fear among students in our education system, especially in India? And what are the practical hacks that students can adopt to navigate this? Let's start with Dr. Amit. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Shruti, and good morning to all the parents and students, and of course the eminent panelists who are present here. I think Mr. Russell Fernandez rightly pointed out that stress is part of life, and we have to learn to deal with it. I think we bring stress on ourselves, probably because of too much expectation in life, maybe too much pressure from parents. I've seen n number of students, who work for passing JEE or UPSC. And, they spend 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. And, they feel that, if I don't get into IIT or if I don't get into, Union Public Service Commission job, then that's the end of the world, which is absolutely not true. At least barring Dr. Ali Khwaja, we are not IIT graduates, but, still we are doing okay. So there is, I think one should remember that if you are aiming for something, you're aiming for stars, just remember there are so few seats available for top IITs and so few seats available for top UPSCs. There's a very large number of student population who's applying for it. So you are more often than not, you are not going to get it. So keep that in mind. But, I would like to talk about the fear of exam in general, like, 10th exam, 12th exam, or, any of your school or college exams. One thing which reduces stress to a great extent, if you are regular. That means if you do your studies regularly at the end of the day, make some notes, revise something. Most of us, probably including myself in my student days, initially first few days or months of the semester, we used to spend in just, getting by. And then, at the end, when the exam comes, then suddenly the stress comes. I don't know what is in the course, whether this I'm supposed to prepare or not. I'm not prepared. I'm not done. And then, for last 1 week, they are going all haywire. This is something, the only way to prevent this is if you are regular. That is number one. Number two is keep your expectations in check. Now, that is not an invitation to, just laze around and say, there's no point on, working hard. I will get some number in my class. Maybe I'm in the top 50 percentile, that is okay. If I'm in top 75 percentile, that is also okay. It's not like that. You give your honest try, but, at the end, just imagine that this is not the end of life. I can do better. Every stressful situation, stress is good. It may sometimes, helps you perform better. But, too much of stress, makes you go all haywire. So how to get rid of stress apart from being regular? Let's have the home situation under control, because, parents could be a great support to students. Probably the message they should pass to the student is that, okay, you have done reasonably well throughout the year. Give the exam without any fear. And, whatever you scored, we will see what to do after that. If you have not scored well, we'll see, or, we will discuss what was the reason that, you could not score well. In some houses, I've seen that parents get very angry towards the child. And that is actually a very dark thing, because, they say that, we have spent so much money on you. You could not pass this exam, or you could not pass that competitive exam. That, should be prevented. I've seen many students who did not do well in school, who did not do well in college, but they have done very well in life. Probably, most importantly, they had life skills. When we go for, getting a rank in school and, doing study-wise, what we are forgetting is that, we are not teaching our students how to be a good citizen, how to take stress, how to make it ahead in life, how to get soft skills, how to deal with people. Parents get very happy if their student or their son is sitting in a closed room, studying like 12 hours a day, and then, not meeting with friends, not going out, not keeping up with the world. Not a good thing. So, of course, students would look at me and say, okay, it's easier said that, you have passed all your exams and now, you are giving us this advice. But, we know that, when you were a student, you would be suffering the same fate. Yes, that is true. But, I learned with some of my friends that, the best thing you can do is just be regular. It helped me a lot, and I'm sure it would help you too. Thank you.
Thank you. Over to you, Dr. Ali. What would you suggest?
Marks, I don't think, are going to be a determinant in the long run. In the short run, yes, we cannot deny that unless you get good marks, in your 10th, you don't get admission in a good school or college for your +2, and then later on also. But then the question is, are you putting the ladder on a wrong roof and desperately climbing up to it? So when you say marks, Dr. Bhatt mentioned about IITs and IAS and all that, is that your forte? Would you be liking to do that? Yes, I did study in the best of the IITs in Bombay, but I can say that not everybody who studied in IIT rose up to the ranks which one would expect from that student. They should have been far ahead of those who did not make it to IITs or who did not make it to IAS or whatever it is, but that's not true. So finally, as Dr. Bhatt was rightly saying, it is the life skills which are going to determine how well you do. And if a child shuts himself up, and I feel very sad to see children being, coached for IITs, etc., from the 6th standard, 8th standard onwards, you don't even know whether this child is fit to be an engineer. Maybe he can be an excellent designer or an excellent legal professional or a communication personnel or a life skills, sciences personnel. What we need to do is to pick up those subjects, those areas where the child is good and encourage them into that. Yes, it is true that to some extent you do have to, if you are a very, very average percenter, then nobody will even open doors for you. So you should aim for maintaining certain grades, certain marks, and certain level of performance academically. But beyond that, the focus should be, number one, on determining which direction you would like to go to from 10th standard itself. See, there's this craze for science, for example. It is not true that science students get a better career than commerce students and commerce students get a better career than arts. Maybe to some extent it was true one generation back, but change has come in tremendously. Today, nobody can say that a science student, if you just monitor them and see, 10 years back, those who chose science, and 10 years back, those who chose humanities, just compare them and see, it is there right in front of us. Why are we being blind to that? But if a child is good in commerce, in humanities, in life sciences, in whatever it is, we should encourage the child. And if in those subjects he gets better marks, as he goes up the ladder, his marks also will reflect. He will get good marks and he will get admission in the best of institutions. Today, there are 100 possible alternatives. Even within engineering, for example, when I studied in IIT, there were 5 IITs. So if 5,000 people appeared for it, the competition didn't look tough. But today, there are 23 IITs, 40 NITs, innumerable triple ITs, and so many other colleges which are as good as the IITs. So even if a person wants to be an engineer, what he needs to do is to have plan B, plan C, plan D. And depending on your ranks, and ranks vary from very small things. The child may get a headache on that particular day and his rank may come down. So have your mission ready that, yes, I am ready that I want to be an engineer. For example, as an engineer, do you really want to be a software engineer? Today, engineering has been restricted only to software engineering. That's absolutely not true. There are 20, 30 other branches of engineering which are equally good for a person who has that aptitude for it. So the potential, the aptitude, the skills of the child should be taken and encouraged. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Dr. Kakoli, what would you suggest?
Yeah, so I will believe that stress is it's a day-to-day life. Stress itself will be happening in our day-to-day life. But, striking a harmonious equilibrium between staying calm and cultivating unwavering motivations, which will help to succeed the challenging academic environment. Particular thing, students should, they should be able to maintain like high stakes. Like, high stakes in the sense like they should be able to often carry significant weight in determining grades or academic performance. And that actually creates a pressures to perform well. And here also I want to add one more point is like unhealthy comparison. So it is like, the students, they go for unhealthy comparison and self-doubt. That actually what happened, it leads to the performance, they come up with a low performance. But they should know their abilities. It is very important to know their abilities, their achievements, and like that is very important. And its self-doubt actually increase lot of stress, which is an unnecessary stress. So, I will correctly believe, that to certain extent, stress is very good, like for performing better in the exam and these things. But like when it comes to this stress, then it lowers the performance. So I think that unhealthy comparison should be taken care by not only by the student themselves, but they should have a very supportive environment. That is very important. And there is also another pressure, which is known as pressure to outperform. Like unrealistic expectations, unrealistic goals. So that actually leads to the fear of performing better. And there is another point which I want to mention here, like fear of failure. They always have a kind of judgment, what my neighbors will tell, what my society will tell. So this kind of things like this heightens stress and anxiety. And that is actually, it's very disappointment for themselves, their parents and the teachers, or the students may worry, like what kind of judgment, this is my end of my life. So this kind of things, it comes, and this creates by the society. So we have to create a environment where it is very inclusive. We need to know their ability, what kind of ability they have. So based on the ability, we should have individualized educational plan for each and every student, because all students are different from each other, and everyone have their specific talent, their ability. So that is very important. And for that, we need to have a support, and collaboration is very important. Like for example, if I take in a class, a student might be very good in, he is very good in playing with numbers. Another student might be very good in playing with words. There should be an environment where we can create an inclusive environment. We can make it a group, and they could come up with a collaborative study method, rather than they feel isolated, and rather than they feel like they're solely responsible for their academic success. So this kind of support and collaboration could reduce the stress of those students, and they can come up with flying colors. And the next thing is that how to manage exam stress. So this is another thing we need to prepare right from early. It's an ongoing process. It's not like at the end moment we are preparing. It's not like that. It's an ongoing process. And it is very important to practice like self-care. Self-care is very important. Now we know the era is a digital era. So these individuals, the students, stay always busy on their technology. But it is also very important that, to improve their cognitive functioning, it is very important that our physical activities, regular exercise, this also plays a very important role. So now we are lacking from such kind of environment, and it is important, that environment should be created by the parents, by the teachers, by the curriculum itself, so that they can really work on the physical exercise, so that they can reduce the stress, and they also have a very healthy, we can find enough sleep is very important, healthy diet is important, nutritious meals is important. So it's a kind of a holistic perspective we have to follow. To be a successful human being, it is also important, values is also important, healthy living, because we do follow the sedentary lifestyles. So we have to keep focus on the holistic perspective, which I want to add on it. And we can also come up with some kind of study techniques, some kind of teaching materials, summarizing information, some kind of flashcards. So such kind of things. And from the environment also, we should have some kind of subjects that we can learn from the environment, from the, from the society itself also. So these things is very important. And lastly, I want to also add on one more thing, that we used to be so much involved in that higher goals. We used to forget that the smaller goals is actually helping us to reach the higher goal. So for that thing, we need to know to celebrate the small victories. And the small victories, like, you know, the teachers could help them to celebrate the small victories. Parents could help them to celebrate the small victories. So that achievement, we need to know, like, you know, we should be mindful about what we are achieved, and that achievement celebration should be there. So with this particular thing, I think we can, with this some kind of strategies, we could be able to manage stress, and we could have an equilibrium kind of a life in our future. Yeah, with this.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Over to you, Mrs. Deanna.
A very good morning to all. And most of the panelists have covered most of the topics. Few topics I would like to summarize on what they have covered, like high expectations from parents. Yes, parents' expectations and teachers' expectations are very high. We are also stressed along with the children. But too much of expectations create a hassle situation in the child's mind. It leads to ill health and mental illness, because too much of stress causes anxiety in the child. So we are probing the child to go into the extreme other world, into mental illness also. Like extreme stress causes mental illness, like schizophrenia, psychosis. Okay, this is the other part. Why do exams cause stress? So much of fear into these children. Actually, stress is the wear and tear our body experiences as we adjust ourselves and adapt ourselves to the new environment, the situations or examinations. So lack of preparations, the next point. I've jotted on some points out of my own experience in my schools. The children have faced a lot of situations and I've been handling them, and it's all practical. So lack of preparations, insufficient and inadequate preparations for examinations can also cause stress and time constraint. They don't have sufficient time to deal with the subjects, too much of chapters. And the COVID has hit us all, and all the children all over the world, they sail in the same boat. Like we think that children are different in one country and they can adjust and adapt in another country. No, all the children are sailing the same boat after the COVID. So time constraint, they're not getting or setting themselves to achieve targets within that time constraint. They want more durations to write the examinations or complete the tests. The next one is fear of the unknown. They're not aware of what questions will be asked or unexpected questions. So they have the fear of the unknown. For this, they can clear themselves, like going through question banks. And the next point is performance anxiety. We all have performance anxiety when we need to achieve something, our targets, our goals, our motives. So performance anxiety is another point they have to manage. And peer and parental pressure. Peer pressure, parental pressure, like parents comparing their wards with their friends is very bad. This advises to the parents. And peers among themselves comparing, no, they have different parents. They have different siblings. And parents are responsible for their own ward's performance. It's in the DNA. It's because of them the children are like this. So never blame the children for their bad performances. Motivate them as much as possible. So lack of support, external factors, and lack of support from environment, from teachers who doesn't teach the children well, from parents who doesn't send the children for, like, if they are weak in certain subjects, for tuition or tutorial classes also. So cumulative workloads, projects, children handling projects, assignments, and such things. That also causes and adds on to the causative factors and the fear towards examinations. These are the points, and I would like to move on to the consequences of it, like what stress leads to. Physical health issues, cardiac issues, and diabetes, kidney failures. So all these hormonal imbalances, anger issues, behavioral issues, channelizing them. So temper tantrums, mental health issues, psychosis, schizophrenia, anxiety, depression, bipolar disorder also is caused due to increased level of stress, which causes anxiety, and then slowly enters into the other scenario and the other world. We expect our children to do so much, but we don't understand what kind of mental abilities or stabilities they are undergoing. Poor academic performance, another task. Disrupted sleep patterns. These are the consequences I'm mentioning. The consequences of stress. Poor academic performance. When we find the signs and symptoms of these things, then we have to understand the child is facing some kind of stress factor. Burnouts and exhaustions. Too much of pressure onto the children. They cannot sustain the relationship. They cannot have friends. They cannot maintain friends. Then on the long run, loss of interest in learning, then self-esteem goes down, the confidence level goes down. All these are the issues which the children, which they have the consequences of the stress. So some techniques I would like to mention for the children to cover. Very important techniques which I jotted down of my own experience is, first is a 5 minutes brainstorm. We have the 5 minutes break. We cut down, we all know that the children has weightages of chapters. The children are supposed to cut down or break down the bigger topics into smaller ones. This is what I advise my children to do. So this list can be written and should be followed and used. This plan should be followed and used. Set a timetable. This is for the students. Let them set the timetable. The next point is identify a few critical topics in the overall syllabus according to the weightage of the chapter. Like one chapter has 13 marks and the other chapter has 8 marks. So the child can concentrate more on the 13 marks chapter than the 8 marks chapter. So identify a few critical topics in the whole overall syllabus. Try to cut down the amount of time consumed with the topics or chapters and contribute more with the high weightage chapters. The third point is focus attention on smaller individual chapters. Children can concentrate on smaller chapters. By doing so, they can overcome the feeling of being overwhelmed, because overwhelmed feeling causes procrastination, and procrastination is not good for the child because he or she cannot attempt to satisfy his or her goals or motives towards the examination. The fourth point is block out an adequate length of time. This one, the child should understand very much that complex and complicated topics should not be dealt before lunch or before breakfast. They should have adequate time, because 30 minutes to 1 hour would take for them to learn and understand the process of that topic. So never follow these topics like before bedtime, before lunchtime, before breakfast. The fifth point is work when you are at your best. In the early morning times. For some of us and for the students as well, early morning works very well. It's called the internal prime time hours. So work during these hours are efficient. In order to make progress on a complex task, it makes sense to work during these complex, these simple and complex tasks in early morning hours. Okay. The sixth one is start each session with something easy. If a child is taking chemistry, the child should break and take a lighter subject. There should be a break between subjects, because taking chemistry and physics and another tedious subject, accountancy, is going to make him more overwhelmed and make him more stressed. So let the child take a lighter subject and an easier and a difficult one. Alternate within the time gap of 15 minutes and a rest. The seventh point is redefine the subject of the topics. Let him short down it or summarize it and ask his friends or his teachers to explain these topics in a very simplified way. So redefine the subject of the topics. So here I want the children to follow on few important topics and very important topics, the acronyms. We all know. When I was a kid, I didn't know that I was using an acronym. Like, I used to take in few topics, like a chapter, in that we have subtopics. And I used to take the first letter of those subtopics and form an acronym, okay, a big word of that. Students who is finding it difficult to recite or to memorize can do this. And these are the last moment preparations. So abbreviations, acronyms are nothing but abbreviations formed from initial letters of a big word, of a big topic, okay? And the second one is mnemonic, using images. Like I've been using this also to learn a new language. This is very essential. Mnemonics using images and mnemonics using organizations. These are very important because it gives quick remedies for a child to study. I've been doing all these things when I was a kid and no one told me this, so I'd like to share this to the students. So here a student needs to create a vivid, a clear image, an interacting image to remember the thought to that word. Like for example, if he's learning Hindi or French. Okay, like for example, when I was wanting to learn a word, like I still remember one of my classmates, she was teaching me like in Hindi. For the first time I'm learning Hindi. Halke halke barish ho rahi hai. So what I did is Hulk. I created a vivid, clear image of that Hulk. Hulk, you know the movie, the Hulk, and the interacting image to remember it. Halke halke barish ho rahi hai. So this is how you have to use the mnemonic images, the mnemonic to recollect or to remember or memorize sentences or words. The keyword method is another important method. So in order to learn words of a foreign language, we use this also. So the method of low-key, topic. If a student wants to learn a topic and wants to remember it, okay, like they have to place an object in very simple method. Like example, if I want to remember all the things which I want to buy in my house, like for example, taking the groceries, and I want to buy toiletries and I want to get some groceries. Groceries an example like onions, tomatoes, and few other things like bread and butter. And the toiletries, I want to get soaps, shampoos, toothpaste. So what I have to do is, I'm talking about the method of low-key, okay? So what I have to do is location. Now, when I go to the mall, I see everything. I tend to forget and to buy unnecessary things. So what I do is, I have a picture in my mind, okay? So when I enter the mall, I need to just take a mental walk along the routes from my kitchen to the bathroom. So my kitchen, I go to my kitchen, I take a mental walk to the kitchen now. I have to buy onions, tomatoes in the fridge. I get a mental image of the fridge. I have to buy bread and butter. Then I take my mental walk to the washroom and I see that I have to get toiletries like paste, shampoos. Okay, this is the method of low-key, okay? So mnemonics using organization is the last one. So here students can impose certain order on the topics, okay? Like chunking, very important. If you want to remember digits, maybe 14 digits, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 1, 9, 4, 7, 9, 4, 9, 2, 0, 0, 4. So the child cannot remember all this. These are the quick techniques I'm telling about. So the child cannot remember all these words. So chunking is another technique where the child can use to remember all these words. So the child can take the first 4 digits, like 1947, India became independent. 2004, the last 4 digits. Tsunami hit India. 1947, 1949, Indian Constitution came into existence, was adopted. Okay, so this is the chunking, like you chunk, like the meat chunks. Chunk the digits into the 4 digits or 5 digits, however the person can remember, the student can remember.
Yeah. Thanks, Deanna. I'll come back to you for more tips.
Yeah.
I would say that all 4 of you were mentioning about how unrealistic expectations are adding on to the stress. I would like to ask Dr. Amit, could you provide some guidance on how to set a realistic academic goal to avoid this kind of stress?
Right. So, I mean, it was I was carefully listening to all the people, all the participants who suggested various techniques. I think the best way to deal with expectations and, keep them realistic is, and, I think this might be slightly off. I forgot to mention first that time management is very important. I think we all know that, I think I would find it very difficult to study in this day and age because there are so many distractions around. Right? When I was a student, there was no OTT, no social media. And, so that, there is nothing else to do. Otherwise, you go out and play in the playground. And, when it turns dark, then, you read a book, whether it's a study book or, whether it's a novel. Now, so the time management has become so very important for students, So parents, if the child is young, then they should sit with him or her and tell her, okay, now you decide, how much time should be there for television or, your social media, how much time should be there for studies, and how much time should be there for physical exercise, which is very important. So this is the time management is the first part. The second thing is keep your expectation realistic. And that's what Ms. Shruti mentioned. I always felt that, if I were given a chance going to, say, the top university in India or US and be, somewhere in the middle or, slightly lower middle of the class, as compared to going to a second-rate university where I can top, I think my ego or self-worth would be more, if I'm topping the class. So as they say, it's better to be a big fish in a small pond than, be a small fish in a big pond. Because, there, your ego is crushed every day. That, oh, you are, there are like, more than half the classes, getting ahead of you and, you are behind. So this is a second thing is very important. The third thing is so many parents have visited me with their kid. And, they all ask me the question that, what career should my son or daughter choose? It's still very Indian way, so that, son and daughter is sitting quietly by the side and, the father or mother is asking. And then you say that, okay, then, you look at your kid and say, okay, what is his or her interest? And, the father jumps in. So, no, which line has got more scope? And I have met so many students later on, they say that, I don't want to be in engineering. I don't want to be a computer scientist. My parents said that, be a computer scientist and the job would be there. You just go there and, if you major in English, what will you do? And so on and so forth. So the thing is that, parents should not push their students to go into a wrong line. And, as Dr. Ali Khwaja rightly mentioned, don't push your student into a line, thinking that, this is the only way for salvation. The last thing is keeping your expectation realistic is parents know what is the worth of their child. And, once they know the worth of their child, then, they should always remember that, not everyone is equally gifted. Not everyone, and everyone has come with the separate separate skill sets. So when, you have got different skill sets, a person may do very well. We're actually conducting this survey in our institute. We were comparing the entrance grade and the exit grade. And there was no match to it. The people who were like, in top ranks, while taking the entrance exam were not the same ones, who are passing with the highest grade. Same thing, in life. I've seen it many times. There were students who were like naughty as hell, getting low marks, but, they have become very successful business person, right? Because, they had skill set which was not academically minded, but, they were enough skill set which would do great in business. They had great tongue, how to talk to people. They had great self-confidence. And, believe me, the best thing in them was that parents were not crushing their self-confidence, saying, oh, you are coming in the last of the class and, look at others, look at our neighbor's daughter. We all hate that one kid in our neighborhood who always scores better than you and your parents are always goading you. See how much she or he is studying and, see what grades they are getting. Don't do that, parents, please. Every child is born with certain capabilities. As a parent, learn to recognize what those capabilities are. Try to help your ward in, enhancing those skills. And I'm sure things would turn out okay. And as several speakers told before me, that, just nothing is end of life. That, if you don't get, first class first, it's not going to end there. There are many more things, many more fights coming in life. And learn to handle stress. If the family is supportive, students can handle the stress. Okay, so I think that is from my side. Thanks.
Thank you. Dr. Ali, Can you give some practical hacks, some relaxation techniques, anything
Yeah.
that students can use during these exam days?
That's right. I'll start with parents. I do understand where they are coming from, that they want their child, particularly nowadays, parents have only one child or at the most two children, they want them to do very well. So I would only tell them one simple thing. Instead of talking negative, if you don't study, you will not get into this. If you don't study, this will happen. Can we talk a positive language? Study a little more and you will make it to that. You've already proven that you can get 70%. Now you study more and you can excel from there. You know that you have achieved this. Now you go ahead to one more thing. If we use positive language for the child, I think that plays a great role, including encouraging the child by saying, yes, you are so good in art. You are so good in writing. You are so good in speaking. You are so good in this or that. And then say, but academics is also important. So use this and make a combination. As far as the students are concerned, now that the exams are around the corner, I would say two things really make a difference in bringing down stress. And both of them are free. That is air and water. Deep, slow breathing. Such a simple technique. Those who are already into yoga and meditation and all that, I need not teach them. But there are so many who are not. So if every child can be taught the simple technique right now at the 11th hour to take slow, deep breathing, starting from getting up in the day and doing slow, deep breathing, sitting down to study and doing that, entering the examination hall and doing it just for 2 minutes or 3 minutes, slow and deep breathing. As the oxygen goes in, you start feeling refreshed and your stress level goes down. The other is water. Since the exams inevitably come when the summer is building up, there is dehydration. If a student keeps a bottle of water and a glass of water and keeps sipping the water, I have seen that it makes a world's difference. So these are very simple, but very effective ways. Similarly, taking breaks. Parents do not like their child to take a break because they feel that if I allow the child to take a break, he will take a break and he won't come back to sit. But if you can work out where you have an alarm, you take a 5-minute break. And what do you do in the break is also equally important. Wash your face, go around and stretch your hands and legs, jog at one spot, go out and look at an ancient technique called tratak. Find the most distant object and focus your eyes on that for 30 seconds, 45 seconds. Slowly everything else disappears and you can see only that one object. It's such a great relief to your eyes. Also including is where you sit. Is the chair comfortable? Is the chair not too comfortable? Is the lighting okay? Is the lighting coming from behind or is it coming from the front? Noise levels. Are you sitting near a window where too much noise is going on? We don't even realize the impact of these things, but they do have an impact. And lastly, when it comes to the day of the examination, what I recommend is those chapters or those points or those formulae which you have not been able to memorize in one full year, don't try to memorize it overnight. The night before the exam is the time for you to relax completely, get a good night's sleep, get up, have a fresh bath, say prayers if you believe in that, have a good, healthy breakfast, go there, reach well in time, and do not rush up to study last minute, turning pages and all that, including do not talk to your friends. Somebody will come and say, have you done that 4th chapter? 2 questions are coming from that 4th chapter and your stress has gone zoom up. No, don't talk to them. Including, I would say, when a paper is over and you come out, do not discuss what you did and what were your answers because you have the next paper coming up. And if you find that you have made some silly mistakes in this one, your confidence level goes on. Go ahead with all the papers, finish it, and then review whatever has to be done.
Yeah, thank you. Dr. Das, would you want to add on to some of these points?
Yeah. I just want to add one point here. Usually what happens, we focus on the weakness of the student or weakness of a child, but I think we should focus on the strength of the child. So that, that particular perspective will help a child to overcome the stress also, because that will increase their self-esteem. That self-doubt, self-esteem, which actually leads us our performance low. So this is what one point what I want to add on this particular thing. And we need to also understand another point, that we should know the interest of the child, rather than like fostering them to go to a the plan that their parents are expecting. We should understand their interest, and that interest, how we can create by giving a proper environment. We have to create an environment where the child can explore their own interest. And one more last point I want to add on here, we should teach our child not to score only marks, but to love the particular subject. When they love the subject, it becomes very easy for them to cope up with each and every struggles. That's what my suggestions would be. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Dr. There's a question from the audience which I think would fit Ms. Deanna, because she was speaking about the consequences of having stress. Nikita has asked, how can students differentiate between healthy stress that motivates them and harmful stress that impedes their performance?
Healthy stress that motivates them.
And harmful stress, how can you differentiate between both of them? I mean, what is the limit that one should keep?
Yeah, stress is actually good, as I said, and it doesn't come in its all, not into you all through the year. It comes only during examinations, during a presentation of programs. So how will you discriminate between a bad stress and a good stress? That's what the student asks. So a bad stress is when you're not able to perform to your limits. There's a certain limit that you have for yourself, and you're not able to perform beyond that. Okay, and you get overleaned, which leads to anxiety. This is a bad stress. And good stress is like when you complete your task, you're not stagnated, you complete your task and you finish. So your stress level goes down. Okay.
All right, thank you. Dr. Amit, many of the exam boards now believe in giving more chances to students rather than testing them for one day. Like CBSE now plans to have 2 board exams. SSLC and second PU are offering 3 attempts, and the best of the results will be taken. Similarly with JE also, there are multiple exams, some attempts that are provided. Do you think this will really help in reducing the stress, or knowing Indian parents, will they just push students to take all the exams and take the best out of it?
I think giving multiple chances to student helps a student in a way that, it may help them prevent a loss of a year. That, suppose if you fail the exam and if the re-exam is given in, in a short time, probably you can join or, save a year in certain cases. But I think, just think of it, we can all check on ourselves. If we have failed exam once, then second time the stress would be even more. That, we know what happened in the past and, what would happen this time. And, if I fail second time, then, all my neighbors, kids, what would they think? My friends have already passed and I'm still studying. That, I think, is not reducing the stress anymore. But, one thing, which I really wanted to say, and, I have seen the worst aspect of it, in my previous institute. I've seen 2 cases of suicide in young adults. I would like to call them adult child because, they're 18-year-old or 19-year-old. They're just getting into, college. They don't only have, it's a total different sense of, studying and, different way of teaching. They have come from 11th and 12th, tuition class mode, where everything is given in pre-chewed form. And in college, when you come in, there is no restriction on you. No one is checking on you whether you understood or not. along with that, what parents fail to realize that, there are other factors which are introducing stress, their social life. They are too young to handle the stress of their relationship, which they've just started forming. And your parents know nothing about it. And, it is a real disaster for a young student that, who has never experienced a breakup before or something, and, not able to pay attention. And parents know nothing about this. Unless, parents have very good relationship with their child, they know nothing about it. And they start wondering why my student is not studying. So, your parents have to be a real friend of thing rather than, being, I'm telling you, you are supposed to do this. Instead of that, just try to be a friend, try to figure out, because, life is very complicated once you come out of school. And that's where parents should be able to help their kids. So to answer your original question, allowing more tries, yes, it is good. You mess it up once, then, you have got second chance, fine. But, probably we all have seen the 12th fail movie. And, you see that, how many times that guy is giving UPSC, and every time the stress level is increasing because, there are parents, who are paying the fees. And, the second time, they feel that, if I mess it up this time, I'm totally gone and I don't want to show my face to my parents. We all know what happens in Kota model or what happens in Mukherjee Nagar in Delhi. So yes, more trials might be useful to some people who messed it up once because of whatever reason. Maybe they can make it up next time. But, is it a solution to reduce all stress? I don't think so.
Okay. Dr. Ali, how important are marks to build a successful career? You did mention a bit of it in your first answer, but if you can explain, how much importance should we give to these exams, class 10 and 12?
Yeah, we should encourage the child to come up to his or her full potential as far as marks are concerned. Every child in each subject has a certain potential. You can make out, teachers can make out, even parents can make out. So if the child is not performing up to that, if the child is capable of getting 80% in a subject and because of negligence is getting 70 or 60, I would say push the child, force the child, and see that the child comes up to full potential. But beyond that, as you were talking about eustress and distress, if the child has come to 80 and now you are pushing him for 85 or 90, it becomes distress. The stress is becoming very bad on the child and it can have adverse effect. He may actually get less than 80% when he finally gives the exam. And as all of us have agreed, in the long run, exams are, the marks are not going to be a determinant of how successful the child is going to be in adult life. So yes, basically coming up to certain standards is necessary. A child should be told that you can't get away by just passing, with 45% or something. You have to get fairly good marks. But once you realize that the potential is being hit, then the child should not be forced beyond that. Subject by subject, every subject, one subject the child may easily breeze through to 95%. Another subject he may struggle to have 65. One should not point out the negatives and say, see, you got only 65, you have to do well, you can't do this. It is that which pulls down the child.
Thank you, Dr. Ali. We have a lot of questions now from the audience, just taking a few of them. Dr. Das, maybe you can take this one. Jitendra Singh is asking how to tackle with insecurity of too much competition in getting good grades.
Okay, so based on this particular thing, I just want to highlight that we have a belief on that fixed mindset. We have a belief that when it is a fixed mindset is there, so we won't be able to come up with some kind of personal qualities or the unchangeable traits and these things. So I think we should have always a belief of growth mindset, that we should also try for that competition, or we for any kind of competitive exams, when we cultivate and when we expand our time and when we practice, when we the challenges we should take as an opportunity for growth. rather like the feedbacks or the, the negative results also, that we should take it as a challenge and we should believe in the growth mindset rather than having a fixed mindset. So this mindset will help us to compete in the competitions, or we can come up with more challenges, and then we can perform better in our exams. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Ali, there is a question specifically for you from Mamta Aradhya. Most of the students have a kind of fear, that is the fear of kind of question paper, scores, whether they can compete within the stipulated time, etc. How to overcome these fears?
Yes. One is, of course, practice writing that much time, at home or wherever you get an opportunity, so that you know how your handwriting goes and how well you can write and how much time it takes to write. Then when it comes to the actual question paper, when the question paper comes, do not start immediately answering the first question. Browse through all the questions, get an overall idea as to how many are there, which are the difficult ones, which are the ones that is going to take me a lot of time to write, which are the ones which I will be able to smoothly write. And then I will decide that these are the ones which I need to take up, and this is what I need to go through. And like I said, deep breathing, a glass of water always helps. Take a break if necessary. Close your eyes and think for a minute what answer I'm going to write. Relax your mind as much as possible, and then start writing. Write the answers to the ones which you are good at. That will give you confidence that yes, I have been able to answer. And then take up the more difficult ones, or the ones which were left out, and you can add on. Be always aware that you must finish a few minutes before the end of the exam. If the exam is 90 minutes, you should aim to finish off by between 80 to 85 minutes. Because if you have to make some corrections, if you have to make some additions or something which you have missed out crucially, you can go back, read it, and answer that. Otherwise, you'll be left out with something and you'll regret that. So these are the simple ways, but there are so many other things which individually a child can question: where I'm getting stuck, why I'm getting stuck, what are the thoughts coming, and we help such children to overcome those once we hear what are their individual doubts and why they are getting stuck.
Thank you, Dr. Ali. I think Dr. Amit can take the next one. Saurabh is asking, is NEP 2020, does it have provisions to cope up with the academic stress in the changing environment scenario?
Can you please repeat the question?
Yes, the question is whether NEP 2020, the National Education Policy 2020, does it have provisions to cope up with academic stress?
Okay, so NEP 2020 is a great idea. Now, I think I will leave it for you guys to decide whether it reduces the stress or not. But, for example, you have gone into a certain discipline. Now, NEP gives you enough scope of, say, suppose you entered into, in a university system in engineering, but after a while you feel that, social science is one of my liking. So in NEP, 2020 allows you to take some courses in the area of social science. And then, you can have sort of, a grip on the social science. I've seen many students, who had done, computer science with, and then, they also like social science, and they go to, a couple of my students have gone to University of Chicago, which is a great school for social science. And there, with their background in programming and statistics, they can do very well. So NEP 2020 gives you a great option to choose what you were not able to do before because, probably your parents pushed you. But, with a selection of certain courses which are offered across university, you can take those courses where you are really interested in. And then, you got a second chance. So previously, before this, once you enter into a discipline, you go out. It's like, one entry and one exit. Here, there are several exits that, you can take certain courses. So I believe that should help in reducing stress, maybe indirectly.
Yes, thank you, Doctor. Dr. Ali, another question for you from the audience. Dr. Mohammed Saeed says, please share advice for parents.
Yes, parents, firstly, please don't go back to your days and say that only engineers, doctors, and IAS officers and chartered accountants make good money. All the other professions are not good. Maybe you experienced that 30 years back and you are stuck with that. Please come into the present. In the present, there are 100 different careers which a child can do equally well in, earn money, have respectable jobs, do wonderfully well career wise. So start opening out. First of all, look around yourself and see what are the different careers which are available and how people are doing. We think that design in the good old days was not a career 30 years back. Today, design is offering such wonderful careers. Find out, do some exploration for yourself. Then discuss with the child. As Dr. Amit sir also said, find the interest of the child. It's not difficult to tell. If you tell the child, no, you have to do only this, then the child refuses to tell you. Open out, make the child open out. And now, as you mentioned also, you can even combine. Maybe you can take up a design course along with a science course or something like that. See where there are combinations which are possible. And most important, do not live your life through your child. I wanted to be an IAS officer, so I will make my child an IAS. I wanted to be a doctor, so I will make my child into a doctor. It doesn't work that way. You have to understand that every child is unique. Your child has every child has certain capabilities. Find out those capabilities of your child and nurture that. Once a child finishes with the 10th and starts branching out into different careers or different options, encourage the child to go into areas where he not only has interest, but also the potential, the aptitude, and the skills. It's very easy for somebody to say, I want to be a film star or a Formula One car racing driver or something. He may be passionate about it, but has he done his homework? Does he know what it is all about? Does he know whether it gives him a good, steady income and a good career in the long term? Once that is there, encourage your child, and your child will make you proud of you.
Thank you, Doctor. Ms. Deanna, what are the signs, parents could look out for in children to indicate that the child is stressed?
Yes. So signs is a message or warning. I would say signs and symptoms. Signs is objective. You can observe, you can see it. And symptoms are what you elicit from the individual, from the student, like what the child says to you. And for that, you have to have a stable mind to get out information, not to be overleaning. So signs are when the child is suffering to go to school, the child doesn't want to go to school, struggle with school, struggling with friends, withdrawal from activities which he or she was earlier enjoying, emotional outburst, tantrums, throwing things, irritability leading to anger, frequent headaches, disturbed sleep, bowel and bladder control, not able to control your bowel and bladder, frequent visit to the washrooms, dry mouth, fear to go to school, fear to go for any functions or programs, and withdrawing from society, withdrawing from friends. These are the signs. And symptoms are when they tell you, yes, I have an abdominal pain, I have a headache. So when a child is seated in class, during an examination, if a child is not showing any kind of signs, we don't understand what he or she is going through. But if the child is sitting with a hand on the head like this, and having some kind of discomfort, that is a sign. And we have to see this very clearly. We have to go into the child and ask him, like, are you, everything's all right with you? Everything's fine. Then he would say yes or no, and then probe, and then make him comfortable. So signs and symptoms, the parents should definitely see or run through these things. It's very essential. Relaxation techniques can be added on to this to reduce the signs and symptoms of the individual, like all the other panelists have discussed. And I would advise my students always, you're not writing an examination to heaven. Okay, so don't be hassled about it. Just relax. Because I used to tell them out of my own experience. I never faced stress. But one incident I would like to mention that one day I was trying to do the weightage of a paper, and I was so stressed, like from morning to, I think it took 4 hours. And one of my colleagues said, just relax to me. And I just took a deep breath. I just relaxed. Just take a deep breath, be clear and relax, and then you would find it. Everything will be set. Even for us, for students, if you're hesitant about something, nothing works out in your brain. Nothing, for sure. So just take a deep breath and relax. Before examination, 2 minutes of meditation is quite sufficient.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Deanna. Dr. Ali, another one for you from the audience. What role do you believe self-care plays in combating exam stress? Self-care.
Self-care is the ultimate role. Parents, teachers, others, outsiders, friends can help you. But eventually, it is self-care. If you're the type of person who is disciplined, who values your own time, who doesn't get carried away, who's not under peer pressure that everybody's doing this, so I want to do this. A person who has a thinking of his or her own, who can stand up to the authorities and say, this is what I want to do, and this is what I will be good at. And back it up with the discipline of, getting up in the morning, maintaining your hygiene, seeing that you do a minimum of some form of exercise. One should not give up exercise or sports or whatever it is completely before the exam. Cut the time down, but don't negate it completely. See that your nutrition and your food is eaten on time. If you take your self-care in general, it also helps you considerably for your exams. And that can be done even now. If you have not been doing it now, start off now and do it. That's my message to you.
Dr. Kakoli, let's get to the result day. How do you deal with the result day? What if it is disappointment?
Okay. So during the result day, so usually people, the students, they have a kind of, they should think, they should put themselves forward rather than ruminating the particular things, whatever they have done or whatever they have performed, rather than focusing on that particular things. They should put forward themselves, and always they should have two plans, like plan A, plan B. If this one is not working, what the other is going to work on with that particular individual. And they should have during the result day, they should take responsibility by themselves. They should not attribute others, it's because of my because of this one, because of that one. We have an attribution, we try to attribute others, but they should know that the feedback or that challenges, they need to cope up by accepting it, and they should find out a way where they can work on it. So and here also I want to tell one more thing, they need to set the realistic expectations. So they should they had performed the exams, and if it's they know how they have performed the exams, so they should be realistic, and there is no point of ruminating or negative resolutions or these things they should not come up with. They should also come up with some kind of moving forward or finding solutions to the problems if they are a failure. They should think of, first they should need to think the negative aspects. If it's a positive, then that's well and good. They will come up with, would come up everything. And lastly, I just want to tell they should not lost hope, and they should believe in 3 Ds. They should keep in mind that determination, discipline, dedications will lead individuals to achieve their goals. It's not the end of the day. It's just a result. It's not the end of their life. That's what, yeah. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. I think we have covered all the questions from the audience, and since it's almost time, I think we will wind up now. That is such an interesting conversation that we all had. Thank you so much, panelists, for joining us today. I'd also like to thank Dayanand Sagar University, Jain Residential International School, and CMR University for supporting us in hosting this webinar. So, wishing you all good luck. It's just another day, just another exam. You should just rock it. So until we meet for another webinar from the Mission Admission, that's bye from all of us at Times of India. Thank you.
Thank you. And best of luck to everybody.
Thank you.
All the best to all the students.